Good evening. Just give it a moment as people connect. I hope you've had a good week. I was about to do the whole "it's great," but it's not. It's just the first Sunday of Advent, but it's exciting for us. We have very few family traditions, I suppose. When it was just the two of us, there wasn't really any need for it, and it's only been the three of us for a few short years. But today was the opening of the first drawer on our Advent calendar and the switching on of the lights. And it's really the first year that our little lad has been fully aware of everything that's happening. He's been a part of it. And so everywhere is shimmering and glistening, and it's amazing. I always feel slightly strange at this time of year because it's something that, as God's people, we celebrate the incarnation in every moment of our lives. Every time we gather, we're thinking about the fact that Jesus is God with us in a very practical sense, present in the meeting, present in our lives, involved in our decisions. But there is still that excitement. And after all the commercial hype of that most American of imports that has sort of become part of our year, even here in the UK, with the Black Friday madness, there's something beautiful about just recentering and refocusing. It's part of that, just to let you know, this year we've done a kind of Voices of Harvest digital Advent calendar. It'll be going live with a new door. They're sort of between 6 and 12-second clips each day. But if you put them all together, they will make one video, and we'll actually put up a full version of that on Christmas Day. But you can catch a sneak preview in the meantime. And before I get into today's study, I just want to say thank you to all the folks that contributed and helped make that happen. Over the next few days, I'll also put some stuff up on our social media. We use, as most people do, stock video and stock imagery. And I'll put up some links to the people whose stock images we're using, because they do some amazing work. It's really good quality stuff. And we want to just be respectful of their time and their energy and their generosity in putting it out there as royalty-free stock work. But you can check that out anyway. It's there's a playlist on our YouTube. We'll put a link underneath at the end. It's called Celebrating Jesus. It's 25 short thoughts taken from well-known verses. Some are put into maybe a slightly different translation, a different kind of language, to help us think about really what it is that we're excited about. While everything around us, and I'm not one of those people who wants to be a sort of an evangelical grouch about other people's celebrations, but while all of that's happening, there are some extraordinary miracles that we are celebrating that not only happened in the actual process of the incarnation, but everything that's gone on since. And so this is our second Sunday of the series Incarnation. Last week, we had a look at the beginning, what it means when it declares that in the beginning was the Word, that Jesus is in the beginning. And we did a sort of word study, really, of what that phrase means, en arche. And I hope you picked up some of our excitement in it. And you might be forgiven for thinking, now we're into Advent, the obvious thing to talk about would be the preparation, to talk about the kind of the mechanics of the actual process of the angelic appearances to the various family members, and then ultimately to Mary herself, of the way in which they responded. And those things are beautiful, and you'll pick up some of that narrative in our Celebrating Jesus little meditations that go up each day. But the incarnation is about so much more than just the process, the mechanisms by which God brought his perfect plan of salvation about. There's something much deeper going on. And so before we go any further, in this second session, we're going to have a look at one of the strangest bits of grammar. People who know me will now be rolling their eyes and going, yes, we know you're a grammar nerd. But one of the most extraordinary statements in the whole of the New Testament. And what's really strange about it is that in one sentence, the two statements shift from past to present tense instantly. And yet the two clauses appear to be speaking about the same occasion. And so we really need to understand what's going on. We're going to move from the incarnation in terms of, and the word became flesh, to the actual manifestation of Christ, whose life is the light of humanity, and into the fact that for our sakes, he became the light of the world. John 1, starting at verse 1, says this. We're going to go back to these verses a lot this week, or these coming weeks, rather. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of all people. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. Did you see what was going on there? That last part of verse 5, and the light shines, present tense, right now, it shines in the darkness. And the darkness did not, past tense, comprehend it. To really grasp what's going on, we have to get beyond the limitations of the English language, because not everything that we use as parts of speech in our language is the same in the original Greek that this was written in. So if you'll bear with me, I'm going to start with a bit of Greek grammar. In English, when we want to express the opposite of an action or a condition, we can add a range of different prefixes, little syllables that go on the front of the word. And we're all familiar with them. And because we sort of learn them by hearing and speaking and by practice, we don't really think about the rules. We kind of really take it for granted that someone can be unkind, but not non-kind. That would be weird. Or you can be incoherent or insensitive, but you can't be unhelpful or unnecessary. That would be unhelpful, unnecessary. There are rules, but we don't really ever pay much attention to them. Well, in New Testament Greek, one way to create a negative is kind of the same. You put a prefix in front of a verb. You put "u" in front of it. And so the way in which it operates feels familiar, but the way it changes the verb is very specific. I don't know many other languages, but certainly I don't know of any that I learned where you could do the same thing that you can do with "u" in Greek. Because the verb itself can take any tense or form after that prefix. And then the negative only applies to the form or tense that the verb takes. If the verb is in the past tense, then the negative only applies to the past tense. So you could say that it wasn't true presently and it won't be true in the future, but it was not true when that action happened in the past. Or if the verb was in the conditional, you could say, well, it's not true generally, but where that condition is applied, it's not true under those circumstances. So the negative relates to the specific understanding that is in the form of the verb. I promise that's about all the nerding I'm going to do, but what does it really mean? What's the impact of that on what's going on in John 1:5? Well, there are two verbs in the verse. The one speaks about the light. It says shines. The light shines in the darkness. Phino means to shine, to be bright, to be resplendent. It means to become evident, to suddenly, dazzlingly appear, to be manifest and to be seen. And it appears in this verse in a form which, again, a bit of grammar nerding, but don't worry about it too much. Third person, singular, present, active, indicative. What does that mean? Well, it means there is one light. The light shines. It means that it's shining right now. Wherever you are, whoever you are, that light is shining. The light shines in the darkness. It shines irrespective of time, irrespective of circumstances, irrespective of location, irrespective of whether you credit it, acknowledge it, look at it, wish to receive it, or running and hiding from it. It makes no difference. The light shines. Where does it shine? In the darkness. Anything that qualifies as darkness, this light now shines. There's one light. It's shining now. It means it's clearly visible. This is not shining under a bucket. And one of the things, this is not, I heard a preacher say years ago, it's not Schrodinger's light. It's not, well, we know there is a light, but we don't know if it's shining or not. Or we know there is a light, but we can't see it unless we go in the bucket. Or we know there is a light, but it's not for us, or it's too far away, or it's, no. Right now, it shines. And it's clearly visible in resplendent brightness. There are lots of words in Greek. He could have said the light now flickers, or the light now glows, or the light now, but phino is to be resplendent, to be evident and manifest, to appear with clarity and brightness. There's a light and it shines. In him was life, and that light was the light of all people regardless of any attributes that the world might say were limiting or constraining or alienating. The light shines, one light shining now, clearly visible in resplendent brightness, phino. And the second verb is to comprehend. It says, and the darkness did not comprehend it. Well, the verb itself is katalambano. It means to lay hold of, to make one's own, to understand, to appropriate, to perceive, to have any real grasp of. And the way it appears in this verse, it is in the cumulative aorist. What that means is the action of laying hold or taking possession or appropriating was continually taking place right up to now. That's what cumulative aorist is. It's something that's been going on in the past and it comes to a final, complete stop, an end. But the verb has been connected with this little prefix, oo, the negative prefix. But it's the negative of all of the essence of it in that form. The fact that it are taking place continuously in the past. It has not been taking place continuously in the past, right up till now, or at least now for John when John wrote it. And this is where it gets really strange, because the now of John 1:5 changes. It changes every single time someone reads it, including me, including you. Every time we come to that verse, we read the darkness did not comprehend it. Did not comprehend it until when? Did not lay hold of it until when? Did not have access to it until when? Well, until now. But which now? Think of it a bit like a recipe book. If you're reading a recipe book and it's got instructions for you and you're baking a cake, it might say after 15 minutes, turn the cake around in the oven. After 15 minutes. Well, for every reader, that sentence is not only referring to a different 15 minutes, it's actually referring to a different cake. We all know what it means. After 15 minutes, turn the cake around in the oven. It's a different 15 minutes. It's a different cake. It's a different oven. It ends at a different moment, and the action should happen in relation to your cake, your oven, and your 15 minutes. If it meant the 15 minutes that were the previous 15 minutes or the next 15 minutes when the author of the recipe wrote it, then the time would be up before you even started baking, and the world would be stuck in an endless infinity of spinning cakes. Because it would always be after some 15 minutes. It means specifically after the 15 minutes is taken since you did the last step, since you put it in the oven. So for every person who reads it, a different now, a different time, a different experience, different circumstances, a different cause. And because John puts the prefix oo in front of that katalambano, which again, for the grammar nerds, it's disjunctive. We need to understand what John writes in this way, because it's speaking about a moment in time that for us can be now. The light shines in the darkness, our darkness, anyone's darkness, whatever darkness they're experiencing, whenever it began. And no matter how long it's been going on for, whether it's the first time or the second time, whether it's oppressive or it's something that they've chosen, no matter what the cause or the circumstances of the darkness, the light shines in the darkness right now. It's shining where you are. It's shining so that you can grasp it, you can understand it, you can receive it. But until this moment, until this specific personal moment, until you're now, the darkness or any part of the darkness has never been able in any way to make the light its own. You see, the negative of forever is not ever, but the opposite of not ever begins with now. Whenever you first hear about the Word made flesh who dwelt among us, whenever you first hear about Jesus, light of the world, whenever God by his Spirit brings into your experience that knowledge, whenever you suddenly turn and realize the light is shining in your circumstances, that could be for you the now that forever changes your forever by taking away the not ever of this verse. Up till now, says John to his reader, not knowing which reader and when. Up till now, light is shining in the darkness, but up till now, the darkness has not comprehended it. And you might say, well, why would I care whether the darkness can lay hold of it or not? Ephesians 5:8 tells us that we were once darkness, but now we are light. Our minds didn't grasp it. We had no clue what God was doing. We didn't comprehend his plan. We couldn't have participated in it, even if we'd understood it. We had no way of seeing God, knowing God, grasping God. But God made himself known to us, and in Jesus, not in religion, not in preachers, not in structures, not in theologies, not in sciences, although I'm not one of these people who thinks that there is any conflict there at all. But how God makes himself known is in person, in the person of Jesus, whose life is the light of the world. The light shines in the darkness right now. By his Spirit, he is present. He's present where you are. He illuminates everything. There is no darkness that can withstand or resist his presence. The light shines in the darkness. But the darkness has not been able to lay hold of it, to grasp it, to understand it until now. You, says the Bible, you and I, we were darkness. But because of Jesus, there is a now. And from that moment on, we can understand him, receive him, see who God is, know his mercy and his grace and his love. The miracle of the Word made flesh who dwelt among us is repeated every time that word is declared, every time he is proclaimed, every time he is talked about, discussed, every time someone is introduced to the truth about Jesus, because the word declared is the same word that was made flesh and dwelled among us. This is the extraordinary gift. This is why we celebrate Jesus at Christmas. And in fact, we celebrate the incarnation all year, because those who were darkness, who could not lay hold of, could not grasp or understand that the light of the life of God, which was all around us, which was visible to us. If you do go and have a look at our daily Advent calendar, little clips that we're posting, the graphic behind it has a small light in the distance with these little short stumpy sort of digital beams that come flowing out of it towards us. And over the month, it's going to get brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter. But it's at the incarnation. Suddenly it goes from these glimpses of the glory of God, because creation declared it, these glimpses of the mercy of God, because the law proclaimed it, these glimpses of the kindness of God, because his dealings with his earthly people and his inclusion of people out of every tongue and tribe and nation, despite the fact that they weren't in the earthly promises, they were nevertheless counted in. They all hinted at it, from the ritual sacrifice of the temples, which showed the horror of sin, but the fact that a lamb would be given, from the promises that from the descendants of Judah would come one who would sit on the throne of God himself. From David saying, the Lord said to my Lord, time and again, these little glimpses. And as the prophets declared the nature and the character and the saving work of the Messiah, these glimpses. But God has in these last days spoken by his Son, the living word, the one appointed heir of all things, by whom he made the worlds, who is the brightness of the Father's glory and the very image of his person. The word that we declare is the word who was made flesh. The only message we have is Jesus. It's all found in him. It's all because of him. It's all through him. And his incarnation means that for you and for me, there can be a moment where now forever breaks the chains of the not ever of our darkness. The Bible says is a process where those who did not know might suddenly know. And it talks about those who are sent with a message. You know, if you are one of God's children and this time of year you think, well, how can I talk to the people that I know? Just start by talking to God and saying, would you send me? I don't just want to go randomly. I don't just want to try it in my own strength. You send me, because sent people are able to share the truth of Jesus effectively. As John himself wrote about his own ministry and his own recording of the gospel much later in his life. 1 John 1:1-4 says that which was from the beginning, that which we heard, that which we saw with our eyes, which we looked upon, which our hands have handled concerning the word of life, the life that was manifested, that we saw and bore witness and declared to you, that eternal life which was with the Father and was manifested, that is shown to us. That which we have seen and heard, we declare to you, that you also may have fellowship with us. And truly our fellowship is with the Father and with his Son, Jesus Christ. These things we write to, that your joy might be full. You know, over these Sundays, as we get ready for Christmas, we've got 3 sessions left to go. And the things that we're putting up online, and there'll be Christmas playlists and verses that we share, and the daily meditations and all of that stuff. It's about joy. It's about the joy that is unique because you only find it in Jesus. And it's about the fact that whatever your darkness might be, and whatever you might be facing, and whatever you might say, well, I don't understand this, or I don't know this about God, it makes no difference today, because you've heard the name of Jesus. Today can be the now that breaks forever the darkness that would have been your future, my future without him. And today can be your now. Light is shining. It's shining in the person of Jesus by his Holy Spirit. It is shining independently of any human around you. And as we tell you about him, you have a choice to trust him. A choice that can change your eternal forever and set you free from the not ever of darkness. You can know and understand him now. And that once decision, in the moment that you make it, changes forever your future. See, once you've acknowledged the light, the darkness has no hold on you. It has no power over you. It cannot determine your actions or change your future, because the light is shining. The light is shining, and it's not just some spotlight or searchlight. It's not just something designed to expose, quite the opposite. It's designed to bring life and hope and peace and joy. John said, these things we write, that your joy may be full. This Advent season, this December, these things we're speaking. These things we're posting to our socials. These things we're trying to communicate so that your joy might really be full. That's our second session. Those are our thoughts for this evening. God bless you. Have a great week. We'll post some information below these as usual as to how to get in touch. If you're a YouTube subscriber, then you should get notifications every morning at 8 a.m. With the meditation of the day. At least that's how I think we've set it up. We're all a bit old for this environment, so we've done our best to make it work. If you get any problems, do let us know. But every day you should get that, or you can just add the playlist. There'll be links and everything for that. And God willing, it'll be a blessing, just an encouragement to keep your focus. Whatever else you're involved with, whatever other celebrations are going on, the joy of this season is the joy of Jesus, God with us. Have a great week. God willing, we'll see you next Sunday night.